This episode, business life cycle. So it's the beginning of the year, and we were kind of thinking about some things. And one of the things we came on was to, how well do you know your business life cycle? Meaning, how do you actually do your work, and how can you maximize your activities and your efficiencies? Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled The Business Life Cycle. And to help me explain, I have Johnny here. Johnny, what has been going on this week, this month, where it's a new year? We're all excited.
It's a new year. It's cold. Ooh. We're in flannel shirts here. I was just outside. I mean, it's cold. And then we've got a weather event that possibly is moving in. not as bad, we're going to be under some ice, and while California is burning like crazy. So sorry for you guys out there in California.
Yep. But remember, bread and milk is not what your concerns are.
Yeah.
It should be, liquor and other things. So
cigarettes. So
I swear, here in Atlanta, folks, you got to understand, I swear to God that Kroger pays the weather forecasters because they got an overstock on bread and milk, because they just Kroger's a local grocery chain for those of you who don't know what Kroger is. But swear to God, hey, man, we're going to have a snow event, and then it never, ever snows. It's always my favorite. But this one, that's looking like it is. So we'll see. Anyway, be that as it may. Before we get started, we would like you to like and subscribe to our shows. It helps the algorithms get the people that want to listen to things like this out there. So if you would, please like and subscribe us. We hope we're doing good stuff for you. All right, Johnny, let's talk about some business life cycle stuff. This has come about largely because I've been out there reading a lot of things on the posts, in the posts on some of the Facebook groups and on some of the other Reddit posts and things like that. And there's a couple of consistent points that I see over and over again. And I know you read the same thing, John, so you're looking at the same kind of information. But this is basically, we're calling it life cycle because it's really more of a customer cycle, I guess I would want to say. But it's about basically they boil down to about three things. One is getting work, right? So all the sales and marketing efforts that go into getting work, doing work, meaning, how efficient are you when you do your work? And then this one always amazes me, getting paid. Like, all right, we're going to just have a quick conversation about that. And then I added in following up with customers because you want the cycle to continue, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what this conversation is going to be about. And we're going to do this as a high overview kind of conversation because we've talked about many of these things before. But I just want to emphasize that there's just a couple of things that I just want to emphasize, particularly about like getting paid and things like that. It's kind of crazy. So
yeah, and if you folks want to get into some more detail on that, you can go in and look at our shows and just look under one of the indexes on our shows under what did you call it? The marketing or the business, handyman business
of the business. Yeah. Handyman business. Yeah. On YouTube in particular, there's a whole subsection of things that are just geared.
We indexed it like that. So
so if you're in the handyman business,
but to start off the new year, we thought about maybe bringing this topic back up for all you guys just getting ready to hit it.
Yep. It's one of those things. These are activities too that need to be done consistently. They just need to be done over and over and over again. This first one, Johnny, this goes, I read way too much I read way too much. And Thomas J. Watson, who was the founder of IBM, this is about the turn of the last century, 1900 or so, not 20, but around 1900, used to put up in all of his offices one word, right? Have you ever heard these stories, John?
I have, but keep going.
So he put up one word. He said, think, right? So his opinion was that if you spend time thinking, you're going to get a great return on your investment. And so a lot of this is, I always like to start with the word think, right? So sit down and actually spend some time. And we've talked about this, but it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're trying to maximize your efficiency, or you're trying to maximize your profits, or you're trying to work more or work less and make more, whatever your particular goals are, sit down with a pad of paper or however you want to do it and do some thinking. Think about what you really want to do. And John, you have a famous statement, and that is, be careful what you wish for. You might actually get it.
Mm-hmm.
And please explain that one so that people understand it, because
it was one of those things where, especially, it really came clear in this business, right? Is that if you really go and get after it, you can get, your business can get big real quick.
Yes.
It's kind of like any business, right? I'll stay on topic here for this thing right here. Spend time thinking, but you need to write things down. If you write them down, then you know that they're important. So if you have the light bulb goes off, go ahead and write it down, man. Or dictate it into Siri or something, create yourself a note so you don't forget it. You could be on the job, you could be driving around, and all of a sudden it dawns on you, you might be seeing somebody else do something that you're like, wow, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
And that's, I know everybody out there, you're constantly thinking about these things, but I think it's to write it down and then take action on it. Because how many times that we've talked about things, and then the next thing I call you back up and I'm like, what was that again?
Yeah, you can't remember it, right? You don't. Don't remember. That's the problem.
Right, you're onto something else.
Things. Yeah, I send myself emails, and that
too.
I do that because for me, if I leave it unread in the email, and then I know it's important. Like believe it or not, the show notes for this show, I wrote myself a note saying business life cycles and sent it to myself. And then I reopened the note, and that was 3 weeks ago, I think. And I reopened it because I knew we were doing this show, and I'm like, oh, here's my notes, and I had all my notes. I sent myself an email. That works for me. Whatever works for you folks, but that one works for me. It works for me. So yeah, spend time thinking and document it in some way. We're old, so paperwork's great, but I still do, like, my electronic media for myself. When I'm sending myself notes, I send myself notes so I remember, because I forget, or I put it in my calendar, right?
Yeah.
Just to do it.
But I think when you asked me that question, guys, if you're, one of the things you should have a topic on is, is your growth and how you're going to approach your growth.
Yes.
And how you're going to control, how are you going to control the growth?
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of what, it's great that I can go out and, do these things, but I can grow too fast, and then I'll grow myself.
Correct. And then you create a whole bunch of marketing issues of bad will and things like that. And again, blah, blah, blah. Right. These are, but it's sit down and think about it, and then really think about it. Like the if-thens. If I do this, then what happens? If I do this, then what happens? Blah, blah, blah. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know that anybody does if-thens anymore, John. Sometimes I wonder, I'm wondering if I do it all the time like I need to. Just kind of that kind of thing. It is what it is. All right. Any other things on that? Thinking just on
it's like I said, what I used to do, especially when I was in business, I'd keep a portion of the, back then I was carrying around a notebook with me all the time, and I would have a section of my notebook just dedicated to, big thoughts, kind of like that. I'd be out and I'd try to study, how did, if I lost a deal, I would try to do the post-mortem on it and take notes on it. Yep. What did I do wrong? What did they do right?
Yep.
How come I got sideswiped because of, this, that, and the other? Or if I won the deal, why did I win the deal? What did I do right?
Charming personality and great jokes.
Yeah. Now I don't know about that, but it was like, all those components that I would put together, and then try to sift through them all, and then say, these are some very important things here that I cannot overlook.
Right.
And I did that myself.
Yes.
And, hey guys out there that sell, when you lose a deal,
Yeah,
and you
do a
spend as much
postmortem.
money as we used to trying to get business, and it could be upwards of probably $100,000 to get. Yeah,
Well, same thing in the handyman business. You're going to spend some money
that's
to
right.
generate leads.
Same
We'll
thing.
let's
Same
get
thing
to it. Let's just talk
for
about it.
top
It's called
for this
getting work,
audience.
right?
Yeah,
Yep. It's about getting work. Well, if you're going to, there's marketing and then there's sales, right? And so they are intertwined largely, but almost everything is marketing today, driven especially on the internet and things like that. And it all is marketing anyway. Sales is actually a function of marketing. Sales is
hmm
closing the business basically. And in our world, that includes meeting with clients, quoting, and or closing business, asking the right questions and all the things. But marketing is more what's going to drive that business to you so that you can go out and do the sales, right? And that's all of the things that go into it. And we've done shows on marketing and we'll continue to do shows on marketing, but it's everything from what you post on any of the social medias to your business cards to any way that somebody sees you is marketing. And I mean literally sees you, understands what you do. You're in the line at, the grocery store and somebody asks you, or you're at a party, whatever, and somebody asks you what you do. Oh, I'm a handyman. And you need that 5-second pitch of what do you do, and bing, bing, bing. And hopefully you got a business card with you all the time and you just hand it out. But that's marketing. That's all the things that get people interested in you. And then selling is of course closing or finding out their needs, giving them a quote, and then closing the deal, as we call it. It's not so much, I hate to use closing the deal. I hate the word deal. I always have, but it is what it is, right? It's getting the business. Thoughts, Johnny? We've talked quite a bit about it, but people need to understand it, right?
Well, it goes back to the first point. These are the kind of things that, if you document these things, why did you win? Why did you lose? What made this successful? Then it becomes you're the unconscious competent. If you read those kind of books, right?
Yep.
It comes as second nature, let's say, that when you're out, you're kind of always, you'll find yourself doing marketing and you don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah, unconsciously.
Yeah,
Yep.
unconsciously,
Yep.
you're at a wherever you're at, and the next thing you know, you've got 3 new leads.
Right. Yep.
It becomes so for everybody that just is getting started in this business,
or if things get slow.
Yeah, or things get slow, but just keep that in mind, and then if you are in this business and things are getting slow, kind of go revisit kind of the basics, the fundamentals again, and see what you're missing. Because we all get lazy at times, and I mean, when business is great, that covers a lot of sins that you're not doing, things over and over again like you should be. But
it's the old Vince Lombardi thing, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be the best at blocking, tackling, and running. It's just like you got to do the basics at some time or another. And when business is good, you tend to not do the basics because business is good, right? It's when business gets slow that it starts to become important.
Yeah.
To going back to just the basics of what you need to do, which is talking to people and being nice and giving good quotes and asking lots of questions, right? That's always my thing. Ask tons of, fully understand what the customer's looking for, and fully understand what the customer's looking for. They won't tell you most of the things they're actually looking for, and it's not any fault of theirs. It's that they just don't know.
They don't know, and which leads you on to the next point here, really.
Is doing the work efficiently and doing the work to their expectations, or as I like to say, better than their expectations. Don't give them a chance to have a negative. It's back to everything runs back to number one, right? Which is think. But when you go and do a job, give a little bit more. Always do a little bit more. If it's something like cleaning up or I don't know, taking, always be nice to the children and the pets, right? Because the pets and the children are people's babies.
Well, let me back up just a little. The part there that you're talking about is asking the questions. So doing the work. That's why I get when somebody says, "Hey, can you do this?" And the first thing that pops to my mind is, okay, what do you mean by if it's not clear, what do you mean? Explain it to me. Can you send me some pictures today? Guys, I mean, hell, it's like nothing to send pictures to each other anymore. Just get that done. A matter of fact, I've got a project to do, and one of the things I asked for was, I asked a lot of questions about it, and then I said, well, what product did you buy that you want me to install? So that I can go to the manufacturer's site and get the manual for it.
Yep.
So that I can read that before I even start to see what I'm getting myself into. Which, hey, sometimes you unbox stuff and you're like, whoa, now I'm standing there. I'm not gonna charge down. I feel bad if I'm standing there trying to go through the instructions on something that, complex, and charge them for that, when I can be, I'll do it at my house, because you can get these manuals over the internet, and then I'm off and running. Once I get there, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, familiarize myself, blah, blah, blah. But, doing the work, being efficient, that was me, just saying, hey, ask the questions, try to uncover, all that stuff.
Yeah, we did a whole show on reading the manual, right? And the importance of reading the manual, because, I
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, things change. Things change out there. You think you've put in 100 ceiling fans, and you might have, and they do some little stupid tweak to their flipping. It could be the same freaking fan, and all of a sudden you miss a step, and you're like, oh, you got
that. Is a great example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different ones.
Yep.
And I just took on a job. And this ceiling fan was a bear.
Yeah, it's a bear.
It's
a bear.
It was, and I did not get, I didn't do that. I didn't ask what kind it was,
right,
and send me a picture of it. I'm like, it's just a ceiling fan.
It's a ceiling fan. Yeah. It'll be easy.
Oh, not this one.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So so in talking about efficiency, and Johnny, you just alluded to all of these things, use some organizational tools, right? And some of the organizational tools, and John just told a great one. Find out what you're installing, read the manual before you ever get there, because you can look it up on the internet, right? So the internet is a huge tool. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, you can do it however. Use that. Use a good calendar program. Don't care which one, does not matter, but have yourself be organized. Get yourself, batch your jobs if you can, right? So there's no sense in driving from one side of town to the other and then doing it all over again the next day. Shove one customer if you can, obviously not shove, but batch the two together. Gee, I'm working on the east side of town today, and I've got the same job here tomorrow. Can I move you up a day? Kind of thing. That saves you some time, money, and aggravation, right? It saves you some gas money and some wear and tear in your vehicles, and so forth and so on. But use your tools. Use your brain as a tool. Think about this. So this is back to number one: is think about how gosh, can I do that? If you have a small job, can you get some add-on work to make it more worthwhile for your time to actually go out there? Using a ceiling fan, the average ceiling fan, probably an hour and a half, Johnny?
Somewhere
roughly
around there.
Yeah, figure an hour and a half, right?
Not this one.
Not this one, right? Yeah, I get that part. But average ceiling fan's about an hour and a half. Gosh, if you could get another, another couple of little to-do list items for them, you're not driving, you're et cetera, et cetera. So you achieve what's called an economy of scale, because you're not spending extra time going out there and stuff. You're not wasting fuel. You're not wasting, blah, 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 so forth and so on. Your expenses go down, and you pick up a little extra revenue. It's worth it. Sometimes it's called being efficient. You just have to think about things. You have to think about some of that stuff. And I'm not saying don't do a job if it's just a ceiling fan, but I always say, hey, is there anything else that you need done? Is there anything else? Do you have a to-do list? Mm-hmm. And almost everybody's got a to-do list, if they don't, they should, so, and just ask, hey, is there anything else we can do while we're there? It behooves everybody. So, again, use those organizational tools, right? And we have so many resources today compared to the old days, crazy. So yeah. With that. All right. On to getting paid. This is one of my favorites, folks. The job is not done until the money is in your bank. I want to repeat that again. The job is not done until the money is in your bank. I know a lot of you have a hard time understanding this, but don't let receivables go. because they won't pay if you let it go too far, or they might not. I should be careful with that.
Well, here's the thing, right? The most momentum you have is right after you get done.
Absolutely.
It's like closing the deal. Sorry for the word there, Larry, but
yeah, I get it.
I get it. Right after you, that's your most the largest leverage point that you have when everybody's happy. If you don't ask for a referral at that point, or ask for the money in this case, you're missing an opportunity, because the longer that it goes, then it starts to fade away.
Well, and there's that and more, right? It's
Yeah.
also time value of money. So,
Well, of course. But for me to follow on here just a second, it's just, it is one of those things where I have left one of these things open for a while, and then it's like, I got to contact these people to get the money. And then it's like, and then of course you go into all the other time value money, so on and so forth. But it's like, oh man, I should have just got it right there. Why didn't I do that? It was dumb,
That's the point, right?
Right. Right. Well, it's kind of funny, hey, I just had a big, thing that I had to purchase. So I gave them a check. And what did they do with the check right then? Fucking, they took a picture and put it right in their bank. I'm like, jeez. I'm like,
back to my statement. The money is in your bank.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you're not doing mobile deposit, you need to be. It's that simple.
That, or use some of the tools that we talk about. Some of the, so you can maybe if you have to take a credit card right there, you have that ability to do that.
Yes.
Anyways, that's a good point. Just get paid right when as soon as you as soon as you can, right? That's fair, right after the job. They're all happy. Hey, everything. And I find most people are like, well, how would you like me to pay you?
Correct.
So,
correct.
Hey, but use the opportunity.
Don't let it linger. Yeah, don't let it linger, because you just heard John.
Right.
John, you were great. I mean, we didn't script this one, folks. We never script this show, obviously.
This is like a live. This is like a live broadcast, and I can't wait for Larry to hit Alaska so he can do a live from Alaska.
We're getting there, but you just heard John's. How do I want to say, angst, I guess is the right word, right? He's kind of like, I have to go. It's like another task. It's another task, and it's not a fun. Asking people for money is not a fun task. I don't care if they owe it to you or not. It's not fun. Hey, could you pay me now? No, I don't like it. But it's easy when there's excitement, right? Then it's easy because it's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. So
that's what.
Right.
So yeah,
get the money. You need to get paid.
It's like anything else in the sales cycle of that's your maximum momentum right there. For those kind of things.
And if you do have materials too, then you pay for your materials. So that's always one of my things. It's like, if I've got materials in the job, I want to get paid because I need to pay my materials off. I don't like to owe money either.
No, and that's exactly.
So anyway, that's why we talk about it. And then, the last part of the business cycle, which restarts the cycle, is doing follow-up and doing your after job marketing, as it were, if you want to call it that. But you do some follow-up with your customers every once in a while. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to do it. You can schedule it or not, but you need to follow up with your customers. You need to contact them via some way or another, email or telephone, or send them a letter, or as we talk about doing thank you notes on a whole show, we did thank you notes. Do something, become that trusted resource, I guess is what it is. We've talked about that on a whole show, about being a trusted resource for your people. My people call me now, or send me an email or a text or whatever. Like, John, I don't think I told you this one, but I got a great text from one of my customers, very good customer, and I enjoy working for them. They're great people. But he sends me his Christmas lights. This is at Christmas time, and he sends me his Christmas lights, and he goes, do you know anybody that does Christmas lights? Do you do Christmas lights? I know you generally don't do heights, he said, but they charge me, and it was this, I'm not going to give the figure, but it was an ungodly amount of money to hang 200 lights. And he's like, I'm not doing this next year. Who do you know? And I was like, that's being a trusted resource. I was really very complimented.
And I'm sure a lot of you folks out there that are listening to this, you probably experienced the same thing. and I never pass up the chance to try to, help these people out.
Yeah,
You become pretty friendly with these folks, and then they're probably like, the first call I make is I'm going to call Larry. I'm going to say, hey, I'm like, hey man, I know you don't do the top of my roof. Do you know any roofers?
Right.
I know you don't, I need a big electrical job done. Do you know any electricians? Because, you, yeah, no. So on and so forth.
Yeah. And it's really, it's very complimentary because it's very complimentary to us, as business people, but I work from the opinion of, I want to try to make sure that they don't make any mistakes, where meaning they don't get in with even if they hire somebody that's outside my realm. I have had many of these same customers will send me a thing and say, hey, this doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on it? Meaning like I want 50% down, which is always one of my favorite, negatives, right? When somebody wants 50% down. And then I would ask, I have asked several of these people, like, well, for what is that for? And they go, well, they say it's for materials. I said, well, all right. And then we get into the whole conversation.
Yeah.
John and I have done this show as well. But if you're gonna charge somebody material, if somebody's gonna charge you for materials, make sure it gets delivered to your house, right? Have it sitting on your facility so you own it, right? They can't say, oh, it's in my garage, and oh, you can't get in my garage, kind of thing. And then it disappears and they disappear. This is for people we don't know.
Yeah. So just going full circle on this now, so at the end of this, when you do the follow up for customers, it goes back to spend some time thinking about it.
Yep.
And, what have I learned out of this, and how can I use it, and how can I have them help me with more business? So for you folks out there that are just, that are growing your business, this is a great way to get off on that foot. But, remember to you're going to have to control the growth, because you can really get some, it's like the guy that, you attend a barbecue and the guy says, man, I'm a landscaper, whatever. And you never know who else is at a barbecue that you're going to, and you do great work. Do you do any commercial work?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. And the next thing is that, you got a $10,000, $12,000 a month contract, coming in on a commercial property. And you're like, holy mackerel, I got to buy trucks. I got to hire people. I got, this is how this stuff happens.
Yeah, it is how it happens.
And so, really so that you got to be thinking about that. And then like what we're talking about here is when you follow up with your customers, that's part of the marketing thing. Who else do you know? Can you, Bob, so on and so forth. But there's always, I think we've talked about, there's always an event in a business that propels you to the next level.
Yes.
So you have to be, and I've worked for a lot of companies, and it always has been, and I've been part of some of these events, but there's always an event that moves you to the next level. So just kind of be thinking about that, because if you want to move to the next level, you need to, kind of feel that event going to happen. Keep your ear to the track on that.
Yeah, I want to share a story for this one. I'm not going to use the person's name, but it's somebody that's actually been on this show, and he has had this concept of what he was working on, and so he was being active in searching out this concept. And what he ended up doing was he actually had to go to he found out that this was a large company that he was trying to obtain business for their local operations from, and he was getting really stonewalled, just absolutely crazy. Well, he found out that their national sales meeting happened to be here in Atlanta, and so he's like, you know what, I'm going to go down. I've been trying to get a hold of these regional managers forever. They won't see me. They're this, they're that, blah blah blah. So on my urging and another friend of mine's urging, who we both do a little free consulting for him, he decides to go down to the sales meeting. So the first thing he does, he walks in, he gets in the elevator, and who's in the elevator?
That's exactly right.
The three people that he's been trying to talk to, and one additional person, the national operations manager.
Yeah, and it's so you're exactly, and the next thing you know, that's an event.
And the national operations manager, by the time they get to the floor and get out, the national operations manager looks over at his people and goes, you need to be doing business with this guy, period. Right. And yes, and
Yeah.
there you go. He's off to the races. Like,
So
boom.
yeah, if I could leave this conversation with one
Yeah.
thing, at the end of this whole cycle that we're talking about, you need to be aware that these things happen. And I know there's probably a lot of business people out there that, I don't know if you want to agree with me or disagree with me, but this has been my experience.
It's been mine as well.
That the company that I've worked for has always had an event. They've sold to somebody that really put them on the map. And I guess that maybe that's the way I would think of it. How do you get yourself on the map? And then once you do, well, be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for.
So there you go.
Johnny said those words to me. Gosh, this was about 1 million years ago, it seems, at this point. But he was just like, be very careful what you wish for, because it might actually come true. And every time now when I think about it, I'm like, that is always ringing in the back of my head, because I'm like, wow, this could get not ugly, but it could get like overwhelming is the word. It could get overwhelming very rapidly. So just think. And then that takes me back. This is, again, folks, this is a cycle. It goes right back to think,
Yep.
and then act, and then think, and then act, and just do it and do it and do it. Johnny, question.
Yes.
Do you do any thinking when the aliens have you strapped to the gurney table? I'm just asking. Inquiring minds want to know.
Larry, I try not to think at that moment.
All right, folks, that signifies the end of this show, by the odd. We want to thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, contact us, Handyman Pros Radio, or questions at handymanprosradioshow.com. It's a great way to get a hold of us. We also are out there on YouTube we're out there on YouTube as well, along with at Facebook as well. So if you can get a hold of us, just try it. We do listen to those. We respond to most things. And so there you go. With that, Johnny, take us home.
All right, folks. Have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.